Hi, this is Kat at inkingpaperwithkat.com. Welcome to my craft room. Today's project is a Halloween treat box. It has a cat window with a little black cat keeping guard. And inside there is a container of candy corn. These are condiment dispensers, and you can find them at pretty much any grocery store or on Amazon, and 2 Kit Kat bars. Perfect size treat for a special child without being overly generous with the candy. Let's look at the supplies we need for this project. We need a piece of basic black cardstock that is 6 by 10.5, another piece of basic black that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, a piece of acetate that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, a piece of DSP, this is from Stampin' Up's Toil and Trouble, that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and 4 pieces that are 1 3/4 by 2 3/4. You also need a scrap of basic black for punching the black cat. Let's get started on this project. The first thing we need to do is the scoring. So let's bring out our Simply scoreboard. We're going to put our paper in with the long side at the top, and we are going to score at 1.5, 4.5, 6, and 9. Turn it to the short side, and we are going to score at 1.5 and 4.5. Oops. Right, that's all of our scoring done. Now, before we do our folding and burnishing, we need to cut a window in the top of our box. In order to get this cat opening, I had to cut a square window because the cat punch wouldn't fit in without punching a major piece out of the front of our box. So let's get our Big Shot out and do that. Alright, we've got the Big Shot up here, and we are going to put our paper on. We are using the 2.5-inch square from the Layering Squares, and we are going to center this in this square section that is the top of our box. And center it up as best you can. And run that through. Put the Big Shot away. And now you can see that we have this square window. Alright, let's fold and burnish this box. Now you do need to be a little bit careful as you do the folds that are right around that window. You don't want to tear your window or anything. One more fold and we will do some cutting. So take your paper snips or your scissors, and we are going to, with the paper in the landscape mode, we are going to cut up each of the score lines to the first horizontal score line. And you cut up, and on the tabs you want to take a wedge so that your box closes nicely. And repeat the same thing all the way around your box. Alright, now before we put our box together, we are going to put our DSP on. So let's start with the DSP that goes on the top. We have a piece of DSP that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and we have a piece of basic black. We want to sandwich those two together. And the reason is we want to give this a little bit of stability with our cat punch. So we'll just take some fuse and we're going to adhere that. Alright, now what we need to do is punch our cat. And we want to try to get this in the center as much as possible. And you just kind of have to eyeball it. Okay, not bad. This is going to be, this is our box, so this is going to be adhered right there. So to do that, we are going to use some Terran tape. And we're just going to go around the edges with our Terran tape. You're going to do all 4 of the edges. Now while we're adhering tape, we're going to go ahead and put the tape on our piece of acetate. Now you can see there's not a lot of space here. So I'm going to use a very narrow double-sided tape. I just don't want my tape to show. I'm sure you're not seeing that terribly well because it's acetate and it's clear. That might help a little. And just go around all 4 of the edges. Set that aside for a moment. Now what we need to do is take the release tape off of our cat window. I'm going to adjust this camera a little. Seems like I'm getting out of range somehow. Sorry about that. I had a good cleanup of my craft room this morning, and part of that entailed cleaning my work surface, and since my camera sits on that, it got moved. Alright, Now we need to remember that our box opens this way. So this is the bottom of the front, this is the top. We don't want to put our cat upside down. And there is, if we do it this way, there's a small border. So you want to try to get your border as even as possible. Put that on. Then we need to take the other 4 pieces of DSP and they go on the sides of our box. And if it is a pattern paper like these little cats, you need to make sure that the pattern is going in the correct direction. And then you need to remember with your back piece that it will actually be facing the other way. One more. All right, let's put our acetate, excuse me, in. Now honestly, if you are putting something large that isn't going to fall out the window, you don't need the acetate. But if it's something smaller that's going to fall out, it gives you that closed box that you would need. And you just want to make sure that your glue isn't showing. All right. Now we're going to put our box together. These are all of our glue tabs, and we are going to put glue on all 6 of those. Just a tip, when you're making boxes, it's really a good idea to get glue right along the folds so that you don't have gaps. And sometimes when you're using tape runners, that can be a little difficult. So if you're concerned about that, use a double-sided tape or use liquid glue. Right, that piece did not get right up to the top. All right, so let's put together the bottom of our box. Bring your sides up, match them to your folded corners. Try to get them as straight as you possibly can. Now, if you're new to box making, sometimes when you're first starting, it is easier to only put the adhesive on the bottom tabs and then go back, because that way you're assured that these other tabs don't accidentally connect with your paper and get stuck. All right. So there's our box. The only thing left that we need to do is we want to put a small thumb hole in. So right in the front of your box, just take a small circle punch, center it, and just put a little thumb hole. It just makes it that much easier. Alright, let's put some treats in. Little container of candy corn, a Kit Kat, another Kit Kat. You could just put in candy bars, you could put in little box cookies, whatever you desire. Let's take the scrap of basic black in our cat punch once again, and we are just going to punch out a cat. And we're just going to have the cat sitting here. I do want to elevate the cat, but if you look as I'm doing this, the head is coming off, so we do not want to put any dimensionals on the back of the cat's head. So position that where you want it. And then for stamping, I'm using Spooky Sweets, and I'm using the Spooky Sweets stamp. And I'm just going to take a piece of Whisper White, some Memento ink, stamp that. We are taking the 1 1/4 inch hole punch, and then we are using the 1 3/8 inch hole punch. Layer that also with dimensionals. And I think I'll put that right down there. And there you have it, a Spooky Sweets window opening cat box. I hope you enjoyed the project. Come back and visit. Thanks.